church family. Pastor Brett here. Today we're looking at the passage of Mark chapter 1, verses 29 to 39. And this is just an interesting text. So I'm going to try and go through this without taking too much of your time. But what we have here is Jesus is ministering in this town. And so first they go to um, Simon and Andrew's home to see Simon Peter's mother-in-law, who's very sick. And so Jesus heals her. Well, then the whole town finds out about it, and they're really excited. So they all come, and Jesus is healing people and casting out demons, and they're having this whole really powerful moment where everyone's really excited about Jesus and what he's doing. And it adds this note in there that when Jesus cast out the demons, he wouldn't let them speak because they knew who he was. And this is a theme in the book of Mark. In Mark, Jesus is very secretive. And more importantly, there's a spiritual reality. There are people who are in the know. Usually it's like demons and this kind of spiritual world that knows the truth. And Jesus doesn't want them to reveal the secret too early. And so Mark makes particular note of how Jesus tries to keep the secret of who he is and what he's doing. And his ministry has this strange secretiveness to it, even though he is doing a public ministry. He is preaching and healing and teaching in a public way. That there's a secretive dimension to it, and that secretive dimension is his true identity. So that Mark recognizes that there was a part of Jesus that people saw, and there was who Jesus truly was that some people knew, and that Jesus did not want to reveal before the time because he needed people to see him in a certain way. That's what the incarnation was about, in a sense. So Mark makes this note about that. But after this happens, the next morning, Jesus gets up very early and goes off by himself to pray. The disciples get up, and Jesus is nowhere, and people are coming and knocking on the door, wanting to be healed and wanting to hear more of his teaching, and they're so excited about it. And Peter and all the other disciples, they don't know where he is, and they're looking, and they're scrambling around, and finally they find him, and they say, "What are you doing? Everyone's looking for you." And Jesus gets up and says, "Guys, time to move on. We got to go to the other towns. That's what I'm here for." And they move on. And it seems bizarre. He's having this really powerful influence. It seems like that's why he's come, after all, is to teach people. And that's kind of how John even sets him up. This one who will come and baptize with fire. He's this dramatic, powerful figure. But Jesus is having this hugely successful revival sort of going on, and he just leaves. But the truth is that what's going on here is that Jesus recognizes that he has purpose. He and the Father have agreed on a plan, and that plan cannot be accomplished in this little town. That plan cannot be accomplished simply by convincing enough people, or doing enough here, or causing enough excitement among the Jews. He has a plan that requires him to be and do specific things. And so Jesus doesn't get caught up in the successes that he's experiencing. His mind, goal, his vision is on the plan. And now you notice as well that he says this after he goes away by himself. So I think we can learn two really important principles from Jesus here. And I want to add that I'm going to use the term ministry to talk about these principles. But let's be clear that I don't mean like this only applies to me and Tony and Andy, because that's certainly not the case. That we are paid to do ministry, but everyone does ministry. And that everyone has a field of influence. That everyone does work for the kingdom. That God is calling everyone to live and be and do certain things, and that He has hopes and plans for your life and the people that you will impact. And all of that is your ministry. So the first thing we learn about doing that, about that ministry from Jesus, is that success, like the success we're experiencing, isn't necessarily indicative of where He wants us to be. That is, that God is calling us to something. And that will require a journey, sometimes through successes and sometimes through failures and frustrations. The book of John actually recounts an experience in which Jesus is teaching to a bunch of people, and these people are all listening and they're really confused by his teaching, and he goes on, and a bunch of them are like, you aren't who we thought you were. And a bunch of them leave. That is, that he had this huge following, but when he starts to tell them what he's really about, they're like, we don't really want that. Right? So he has his own share of disappointments and difficulties, even failures, you might call them. So failure and success are not the markers of ministry. We're simply called to be faithful to what we hear God calling us to do in our lives. That is, when you hear the voice of God saying, do something, when you feel that pull to take a new step, to try something new, but sometimes you have to leave behind good things to go on to better things. So that's the first lesson we learned. The second lesson we learned is that ministry flows from communion. And by that I mean Jesus connects with the Father. He goes out to a solitary place to pray. He and the Father kind of hammer it out. And when the disciples come to him and say, "Everyone's looking for you. Let's go. We got this big agenda for today. We're gonna change all these lives." And he says, "Nope, we're going on. I got another plan." That came that choice, the decision, that power for ministry that led to his ultimate successes, the things, his accomplishing of the goals that he and the Father had laid down, began from that place of communing with the Father, communion. And so it is in connecting with the Father that we then empower ourselves for successful ministry, whatever that may look like. So the thing I want you to take away from today is that you have a ministry, that you are influential, that people around you can be impacted by your life, by the power of the gospel to transform you and transform them. But that it starts with your connection to the Father. And it depends on your willingness to heed what the Father says, even if that means leaving behind good things. So I look forward in the coming days and weeks, months, and I hope years to ministering alongside you all. Have a wonderful day.